1 in 10 people over the age of 60 is walking around right now with an organ that has already begun to fail, and they have absolutely no idea it is happening. No sharp pain, no dramatic warning, no clear signal telling them something is wrong. They wake up, go about their day, eat their meals, and everything feels normal, while inside their body, this organ is quietly breaking itself down. This is not a slow injury from the outside. This is something much more dangerous. The organ is digesting itself using its own enzymes, a process known as autolysis. Imagine a system designed to break down food suddenly turning on itself, and the most alarming part is that it does this silently. You can sit down for breakfast, eat something you have eaten your entire life, and feel completely fine, while at the same time triggering damage that builds day after day. According to global data published recently, chronic inflammation of this organ has more than doubled over the last 3 decades. This is not a small increase. It is a dramatic rise, and it is no longer limited to older adults. The average age of diagnosis has dropped significantly, meaning people in their 30s and 40s are now being affected. This is happening in the middle of careers, while raising families, during what should be the most stable years of life, and yet most people have never been told how vulnerable this organ really is or how easily daily habits can push it toward failure. The system does not focus on prevention. It reacts when the damage is already done. That is why understanding what is happening inside your body right now matters more than waiting for symptoms to become obvious, because by the time the pain appears, the process is already advanced. To understand why this organ is so fragile, you need to understand what it actually does. Despite its small size, weighing less than a typical chocolate bar, it carries out 2 of the most critical functions in your entire body. First, it produces digestive enzymes. Every time you eat, these enzymes are released to break down proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Without them, your body cannot properly process food. Every meal depends on this system working correctly. The second function is even more important for long-term health. This organ produces insulin, the hormone responsible for controlling blood sugar. Insulin allows glucose to enter your cells, providing energy while preventing damage to your blood vessels, nerves, kidneys, and eyes. If insulin production fails, the consequences affect your entire body. Now here is where the real danger begins. The enzymes this organ produces are incredibly powerful. They are designed to break down food, but if they activate too early, they can start breaking down the organ itself. Normally, these enzymes remain inactive until they reach the small intestine. But when something disrupts this process, when pressure builds, when ducts become blocked or inflamed, those enzymes activate prematurely. Instead of digesting food, they begin digesting tissue. This is the mechanism behind autolysis. It is not caused by one single event. It is triggered by repeated stress, by daily habits that slowly push the organ beyond its limits. And this is where most people make a critical mistake. They assume that serious damage only comes from extreme behavior. But in reality, it often comes from small, repeated actions that feel completely normal. Let's start with the first habit, something almost everyone does every single morning without thinking. After hours of sleep, your body is in a fasting state. Blood sugar is low, and your digestive system is at rest. This is when the organ needs a gentle start, but instead, many people begin their day with fast-absorbing carbohydrates. A glass of packaged juice, a sweetened breakfast, white bread, or sugary porridge. At that moment, blood sugar spikes rapidly, and the organ is forced to respond immediately by releasing a large amount of insulin. This is not a gradual process. It is a sudden demand placed on a system that was at rest just minutes earlier. At the same time, because food has entered the stomach, the organ must also release digestive enzymes. This creates a double load. It is like forcing someone to sprint the moment they wake up. Day after day, year after year, this pattern creates stress that eventually leads to dysfunction. Packaged juice is one of the biggest hidden problems here. Many people believe it is healthy because it contains vitamins, but it also contains a high concentration of sugar, often equivalent to several teaspoons in a single glass. This sugar does not behave the same way as whole fruit. It enters the system rapidly, overwhelming both the liver and the pancreas. What seems like a simple, healthy choice becomes a daily trigger for stress on the organ. The solution is simple but requires discipline. Start your morning with warm water. Give your body time to wake up before introducing food. Then begin with protein or fiber, not sugar. This small change can reduce the stress placed on your system every single day. The second habit is not about what you eat, but how you eat throughout the day. Many people follow a pattern that seems normal but is actually extremely harmful. A small, rushed breakfast, little to no food during the day, and then a large, heavy meal in the evening. Everything that should have been spread across multiple meals is consumed all at once. This creates a massive demand on the digestive system. The organ receives a signal to release a large amount of enzymes immediately to handle the load, but the internal ducts that carry these enzymes have limited capacity. When overwhelmed, pressure builds inside the organ. The enzymes cannot flow out efficiently. They begin to accumulate and activate prematurely. This leads to the same destructive process of self-digestion. There is also another hidden danger. When meals are infrequent and large, bile can stagnate and form stones. These stones can block the ducts shared by the liver and pancreas, leading to sudden and severe inflammation. This is not a rare occurrence. It is something doctors see regularly in emergency situations. The solution is not complicated, but it requires consistency. Eat smaller portions more frequently, for 2 5 meals a day instead of 1 or 2 large ones. This keeps the system working in a steady rhythm rather than forcing it into extreme cycles of inactivity and overload. It allows the organ to function naturally instead of being pushed to its limits. The third habit is one of the most underestimated, and it is deeply rooted in everyday eating patterns. It is the combination of fat and sugar in the same meal. Think about common foods, desserts, pastries, fried items followed by sweets. These combinations are not just indulgent, they are demanding. Fat digestion requires specific enzymes, while sugar requires insulin. When both arrive together, the organ must perform to high-demand functions simultaneously. Over time, this repeated stress leads to changes within the tissue itself. Fat begins to accumulate in the organ, a condition known as steatosis. This is similar to what happens in the liver, but it is far less talked about. As fat replaces healthy tissue, the organ loses its ability to function properly. This is why many people develop blood sugar issues later in life without obvious causes. The insulin-producing cells have been gradually replaced. This process does not happen overnight. It is the result of years of repeated stress from everyday habits. The solution is not to eliminate enjoyment, but to change how foods are combined. Separate fat and sugar instead of consuming them together. Small adjustments like this reduce the load placed on the system and allow it to function more efficiently. By this point, you may think that fixing your diet is enough, but the next habit proves that even perfect eating can be undone by something most people consider harmless. And that is what we will uncover next. The fourth habit is one that almost everyone considers harmless, even relaxing, something you may have done today without a second thought. You finish your meal, feel full, maybe a little heavy, and instinctively lie down on the couch just for 5 minutes. It feels natural, almost comforting. But inside your body, that simple action is creating a problem that repeats itself every single day. When you eat, your pancreas releases digestive enzymes into a narrow duct that carries them into the intestine. This system depends heavily on flow and pressure balance, and surprisingly, even gravity plays a role when you are upright. Gravity helps these enzyme fluids move downward efficiently, but the moment you lie flat, that assistance disappears. The flow slows, the fluid begins to pool, and pressure inside the duct rises. Now add one more factor. After eating, the lining of the duct is already slightly swollen from increased activity. This narrows the pathway even further. So now you have thick enzyme fluid, a narrow duct, and reduced movement. The perfect conditions for stagnation, and when these enzymes sit too long in one place, they can begin activating before they reach their destination. That is how self-digestion begins again, not from extreme behavior, but from a routine repeated daily. There is also a second layer to this problem. Lying down after eating increases the likelihood of acid reflux. Stomach acid can travel backward and reach the shared opening where digestive fluids exit into the intestine. This can trigger a spasm, a sudden tightening that blocks the outflow even more. So that 5-minute rest is not neutral. It is a daily trigger for stress on the pancreas. The solution is simple, but powerful. Stay upright for at least 20 minutes after every meal. Even better, walk slowly. No intense exercise, just gentle movement. This keeps everything flowing in the right direction. It is a small habit that can completely change how your body handles digestion. The fifth habit is the most dangerous of all because it has nothing to do with food, nothing to do with timing, and nothing to do with what you drink. It comes from your mind, chronic stress. Most people separate mental stress from physical health, but in reality, they are deeply connected. There is a direct physical pathway linking your brain to your pancreas through the vagus nerve, one of the most important nerves in the body. This nerve controls how your digestive system functions, including enzyme release, blood flow, and muscle relaxation within the ducts. When you are calm, your body enters what is called the rest and digest state. Blood flow is directed to your organs, digestion runs smoothly, and everything functions as it should. But when you are stressed, the system switches into fight or flight. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline take over. Blood is redirected away from your digestive organs toward your muscles. The pancreas receives less blood, less oxygen, and its ducts begin to tighten. Now imagine eating in that state. Food enters the stomach, but the pancreas is not ready. It is tense, restricted, and undersupplied. Enzymes are released inefficiently, digestion becomes incomplete, and pressure builds inside the organ. Over time, this repeated state leads to damage at a cellular level. Chronic stress does not just make you feel anxious, it physically changes how your organs function. Studies have shown that stress hormones can trigger inflammation within pancreatic tissue and even disrupt protective mechanisms that normally prevent self-digestion. When stress becomes constant, the damage becomes constant. This is why managing stress is not optional. It is essential for protecting this organ. Now that you understand the 5 habits that damage the pancreas, the next question is simple. How do you know if damage has already begun? The body often sends subtle signals long before a serious diagnosis is made. One of the most overlooked signs appears on the skin, small bright red dots on the chest, abdomen, or shoulders. They do not itch, they do not hurt, and they are often dismissed as harmless. But these can be indicators of changes in tiny blood vessels caused by enzyme leakage into the bloodstream. Another sign appears in the folds of your skin, particularly around the neck, armpits, or groin. If the skin in these areas becomes darker, thicker, or velvety, it may indicate that your body is struggling to manage insulin effectively. This is not just a cosmetic issue. It is a metabolic signal that your pancreas has been under stress for a long time. A third sign is persistent dryness of the skin, cracking at the corners of the mouth, or flaking around joints like elbows and knees. This can happen when the pancreas is no longer producing enough enzymes to properly absorb fat and fat-soluble vitamins. Without these nutrients, your skin begins to show the deficiency. These signs are not random. They are early warnings. If you notice multiple symptoms, it is time to take action, not panic, but act with awareness. To truly understand what is happening inside your body, you need objective data. There are specific tests that can give you a clear picture of how well your pancreas is functioning. Blood tests that measure enzymes can indicate whether inflammation is present. Stool tests can reveal how effectively digestion is occurring. Long-term blood sugar measurements can show whether insulin production is being affected. Imaging studies can provide insight into structural changes within the organ. These tests are not complicated or expensive, but they are often overlooked until symptoms become severe. The key is to approach this proactively. Do not wait until pain forces you to act. Use these tools to understand your baseline and monitor changes over time. This allows you to catch problems early, when they are still manageable. But testing alone is not enough. What truly matters is what you do with that information. This is where daily habits become your most powerful tool. Because once you understand the condition, you have the ability to influence it through consistent action. Everything comes together in the final step, recovery and prevention. The pancreas is not an organ that fails instantly. It deteriorates slowly, and in many cases, it can recover when given the right conditions. The key is consistency. Warm, soft, easily digestible foods reduce strain. Smaller, more frequent meals create a steady workload. Instead of overwhelming the system, avoiding harmful combinations like fat and sugar reduces metabolic stress. Staying upright after meals improves flow. Managing stress allows the organ to function in its optimal state. These are not extreme changes. They are small, practical adjustments that work together as a system. The biggest mistake people make is stopping as soon as they feel better. Improvement does not mean the problem is gone. It means the body is responding. True recovery takes time, and the habits that support it need to become permanent, not temporary. You do not need perfection. You need consistency. One change at a time, repeated daily, creates lasting results. The pancreas is remarkably resilient when supported properly. It can adapt, repair, and regain function, but it requires your cooperation. Start with one habit, then build from there, because the difference between decline and recovery is not luck. It is the choices you make every day.